The point was previously made that the emergence of new technologies and of new materials always creates questions and challenges when we're dealing with buildings that are bigger than we've ever designed or occupied before. So all over the news following the Grenfell fire, we had speculation. But does the speculation mean that simply because a building contains the materials that the same thing would happen? And the answer, of course, is no. You have to look at the systems. You also have to look at the underlying drivers. And this is a fact of our world, a fact of our industry, certainly. Cost pressures are always a part of design. They are one of the constraints. Yet, when we are looking at new materials that answer one question, we have to be careful that it is also answering the other necessary questions that people have come to expect be answered. Since the Grenfell fire, there have been discussions about our own politics. Proposed cuts to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, combined with this notion that we have a tremendous lack of affordable housing, have led to some people speculating that we're really going to have a tough time of it moving forward. So yes, some of this is politicized, but also we can come up with solutions. These solutions lie in our performance-based approaches and in our codes. The codes are, after all, more or less a record of all the things that have gone wrong in the past, but also the things that have gone right. So how do the U.S. codes address the risk, and has the fire resulted in regulatory change? To look at that, it's useful to look at our history. And actually, the history goes back much farther to the 50s in Europe with the development of what we call EFIS now. Following the development of EFIS, fast forward to 1988, tests that had originally been developed by the Society of Plastics Industries to test EFIS were introduced into the Uniform Building Code, Test 26.4. Another 10 years after that, these same tests were reborn, intermediate scale tests, as NFPA 285. And beginning in 2000, we had the first requirements in the International Building Code where NFPA 285 was being required. So we've had considerable time, almost 2 decades now, where we've had these requirements and the same or similar test methods in place to look at these materials. It has evolved. We are dealing with many combustible materials that are part of the cadre of materials that comprise modern buildings. We need these materials. We need them to address energy efficiency, weight, other performance issues. So we fill our non-combustible building types with foam plastics. We fill them with metal composite materials, high-pressure laminates, reinforced polymers. The codes, however, are not uniform because of the way this country works. Some states did not even adopt the measures that have been in place for over 2 decades. And understandably now, there's great pressure for those things to change. Even in 2012, as often happens, codes are a pendulum, and that pendulum swung the other way. And in 2012, the codes changed to lessen the requirements. So what gives us this confidence? Why do we do this? And it's not in a vacuum. Part of our frame of reference has been that in the United States, there has been a strong reliance on automatic suppression systems, which are really designed to control fires. But we also recognize that these systems have limitations. For the most part, we get huge bonuses when we design buildings for having automatic sprinkler systems. And if you look at the data, it is arguable that the presence of sprinklers as they have grown in buildings has made our building landscape a safer place to be. It was said by Robert Solomon of the National Fire Protection Association that we probably have 0 fatalities in high-rise buildings in the US that are protected with automatic sprinkler systems. It's 0 or approaching 0. That's a pretty major finding from the preeminent organization that deals with these types of statistics. But the systems have to be able to control the fire. This is the CCTV building, which at the time was 1 month away from being completed. Another exterior cladding fire, which notably did not destroy the structure.
So how this would work in the United States, the way it's developing is the Cross-US entity would be part of the Structural Engineering Institute. It will be managed by an executive committee of Cross-US, excuse me, that reports to the SEI Board of Governors, and that Cross-US expert panel that I mentioned will report to the Board of Governors. We have already established the initial population of our executive committee, and I want to acknowledge here the very tireless work of Andy Herman in this. He's been one of the key drivers in helping us get where we are today. Most of you know Andy, very distinguished former president of ASCE and of the SEI. Andy and I will be working on driving the XCOM, and we have so far signed up some really excellent people in industry for our expert panel, 10 so far. We're going to be looking to expand that. But the expert panel is multidisciplinary. We look across the spectrum of civil and structural engineering, but also bring in other professions like legal, owners, government regulatory people, and so forth. So we're still recruiting, but this is our expert panel so far. So where we are today and where we are going is this. We have created a Cross-US website. It's very near ready to go live. We got seed funding from SEI to do that. The programming started a couple of months ago. We're doing final testing on that now. And the URL for that website, when you're able to access it, will be cross-us.org. We have established our executive committee and expert panel. We've put together our operating plans and operating procedures, drawn a lot from the experience in the UK. A great deal of care has gone into ensuring, to the extent that we can, the confidentiality, but very importantly, the quality of the product that is put out there. This is really key for it going forward. So this coming Saturday at the Board of Governors meeting, our Board of Governors will take up the final approval to launch, and if that is given, we will be launching probably sometime becoming operational during the month of May, so very soon. This is what our Cross-US website looks like. It's very similar to the UK website, Australia website, and so forth. We had to do some translation from English to American and so forth. That was quite a challenge. Andy was our hero in that exercise, but it's working and it's really excellent, so we're quite excited about that. What we need from you and from everybody, as Alistair mentioned, is not only the major structural failures, but more available and just as valid are the lesser failures, the near misses. Those things are the precursors that we can learn from, and we really need to distribute this. So I ask you, anticipating a favorable approval from our Board of Governors on Saturday, to keep your eye out for an announcement that Cross-US is live. Again, the website is www.cross-us.org. And if you're interested in joining our cause here in any manner, you can talk to me or reach out to me. We've established a cross-email system. My cross-email is glenn@cross-us.com, or you can contact Andy Herman at andy@cross-us.com. So thank you very much for your attention today. And let's give our final...